Hi Stampers, it's Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. I didn't get all the way through my sample, although you did see it on my blog last week. I had posted a picture of a card that was this scallop tag topper, and people said that they didn't understand how I made it. And so I'm going to make it today on video, and then I'm also going to tilt it 90 degrees and make one that goes landscape. This doesn't have the inside in it yet, but you'll get the idea. We're going to be playing around with, like I said, going that direction, and then we're going to go the other direction. So I'm going to bring in some papers, and this is how we start out with our card base. Whenever we're making a card, we start out with either 8.5 by 5.5 scored at 4 1/4, or we start out with 4 1/4 by 11 scored at 5.5. And so this would give us a card that goes this way or opens this way. And then this one's going to go this way or this way. This is how we normally do them. But I'm going to show you how we're going to do this as a tag topper. So let me make sure this is indeed 5.5. And it's not. I must have cut a 5 1/4 off of it. So there we go. And it just dawns on me that one's already scored. That's not going to work. So here is our other card base. And then in order to get the tag topper closure that I was talking about, you can bring in any one of our tag topper punches, and we have several within the catalog. This is the Delightful tag topper. And all you're going to do is you're going to line it up in here. Now, some people like to measure, so far from the top. Some people like to eyeball it. If you're thinking you want to be picky, you could kind of take a look at, where this is, where you think it's going to measure up, and then you can come across and we'll measure this on the other side. And that's an erasable pen. You could use pencil. But the idea is I'm going to take and I'm going to line this up, and I could have, measured. This time I just kind of eyeballed it and then made the other side match. But we're going to punch that in there and just do that. Then, like I said, we're going to flip it around and we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to feed that in there, and then I'm going to look for my little mark that I made with the pen. I don't know if you can see that in there, but you can barely see my little mark. So that should get me even. So that's how it's going to go on that one. And then we would do a similar thing over here, where we're going to take that in and punch it out. I'm going to flip it around and do the other side. Then you can either snip off the ends with paper snips, or if you want it to be a little straighter, you can come in and lay this in your trimmer track. And right there you can see through there that that's the inside track of the blade. And so I'm going to come from the bottom, and I can feel it cut loose. And that means that this has come off. I don't want to go any further because I don't want to actually cut off the actual tab. So I'm going to bring my blade all the way up to the top, and then I'm going to do it down to that until it gave loose, and then this pops out. So that'll show you that it's nice and straight, and I've taken both of them off. Now what I'm going to do is come in and score this one, and we're only going to do that on one side. But I've scored it right there at the same spot where I cut it off. This other side, I'm going to come in and just cut off. Still the same exact thing. We're still going to cut off those 2 extra flaps, lifting to make sure we don't cut off the actual tab, and then we're scoring one side. So I think this is the point where other people were getting confused, is we've got one score line, but how do we know where the other score line goes? And the trick is that we want to have it come over to be a regular card base, because we still have that idea that we want to finish off this card and be able to put it into an envelope. And so the base of any standard card is going to be 5.5, which we already have, by 4.25. So that means that from this tab line, I'm going to come over to the 4.25, and that's where I'm going to score. So now we have a basic card base, and it's going to fit in our envelope. Now when it goes the other way, we've already got our 4.25, so what we're looking for is our 5.5. So we're going to come over 5.5 from that side. Okay, and that's right at this middle line right here. That's our 5.5, because flush over to the edge, that's 6. So I'm going to take this line right here, and then I want my score tool. This is where you have to be careful. You're not going to cut it off, but we're going to score right there at the 5.5. And so there we have our other side. Okay, so we know that they're standard card bases now, right? So we know that the inside is going to be that 4 by 5.25. I have a stack of those pre-cut. I usually take an entire pack of Whisper White or Basic White paper, and I cut it down to that size, because that's 99% of the time, that's what I'm using as the inside layer to my cards. And it's nice when I'm building classes and stuff to just reach in and grab a whole stack of them. So there's our inside. Okay, now the outside. Now we know this is a standard card base length, so we know that one way is going to be 5.25, because it would normally be 4 by 5.25, but we're not going to get the full 4. What we have here is 2.25 inches. So my layer is going to be 1/4 inch smaller, so 2. So this bottom layer is going to be 2 inches by 5.25. You follow me? And that's, you know, anytime you're trying to figure out measurements, if you just take, this is 3 3/4. So we want it to be a little bit smaller, so we're going to come down to the 3.5, and because this was 4.25, we're going to come to 4. So this is 3.5 by 4. And we can do that as a base layer with a color of cardstock, or we can go straight to our designer series paper, or we can lay a color down with white on top. It doesn't matter. Just each time we're adding a layer, it's going to come down 1/4 inch. And then I pulled out this designer series paper because I really liked it. And it's got a design, top and bottom, but I don't need 6 inches. I need 5.25. So what I kind of need to do is gauge, because I know this is 5.25, how much I'm willing to give up of the top and how much I'm willing to give up of the bottom. And it looks like I only want to give up maybe 1/4 inch of the bottom, or I'm going to miss all my little crabs. So we'll start there. We'll take 1/4 inch off the bottom. And then, like I said, it needs to be 5.25. So we'll rotate this, and 5.25. Sorry, it's easier to measure down here at the bottom. I think I'm off camera, but the idea is I wanted this measurement down here. So now I have this. And you know, actually, that's not half bad. It wouldn't get me this one. Maybe it would on the next, because this is 6 inches still. And so if this is supposed to be 2 inches by 5.25, I can get 3 cards out of this. And so I think that's nice placement, don't you? So we'll come back and we'll do 2, 2, and 2. So then we can pick which one we want to use. And I think I'll mat him. What do you think? Onto a darker color? Sometimes I blow right through a card. I have everything all pre-cut, ready to go, and we just stamp and assemble. Other times I want to show you my thinking process, because a lot of people say, I don't know how you do it. It's, you know, you're artistic, whatever. Not really. I'm crafty. I'm not artistic. But I'm a mathematician, kind of. I'm an accountant. And so numbers come easy for me. And so once I figure out layer sizes and know that there's a 1/4 difference, you know, each way, it doesn't quite look even to me as I line it up. So just take a titch off the top. And now when I lay it down, I think I like the borders better. But, you know, however you want to use it, line it up, make sure we got good borders here. And there's going to be the outside of our card, and we've already determined the inside. Okay, the bottom color, this is Just Jade, and this is Pretty Peacock. And I really like Pretty Peacock. It's been a popular color, but it's retiring in May. So if you like any of those colors that came out with that, Purple Posy, Pretty Peacock, oh, Seaside Spray, Poco Rose, and Terracotta Tile. They're all going to be retiring in May. And normally we get our new annual catalog in June, but this year it's coming out in May. So make sure that you have placed an order with me recently, because that makes sure that you get the next annual catalog in your mailbox for free. It feels a little funny doing 2 at a time, but you'll follow me, right? Okay, so I said one side was going to be 4, like it's a standard layer. But as it comes across, it needs to be 3.5. So let's see how that looks. Yep, I like it. Okay, so 4 by 3.5. I'm going to minus 1/4 inch. So we're going to go 3 1/4, 3 3/4. Crossed is going to be my 3 1/4. And this is 3 3/4 this way. So that's going to be my next layer over the top. And then for this guy, what I did is I actually punched him out of the designer series paper. I love that our papers allow you to do that. If you just take your whale punch, you'll see that if you line it in there, it will line up. No, it's not going to line up exactly with that one because there's others in the way. But you'll see, they line up. But I always worry about these little guys because I can use them on something else, right? So what I do is I cut out the one that I want to be able to use, and I think I can't really use this at all because it's, you know, a half of a whale. So I can come and just trim out this one. Okay, and that's going to save all these guys. But it still gives me this handle. The reason I didn't cut this guy off is because now I can line it up into my punch, and then this is my handle. Now, if that wasn't possible, if all I could do was cut out that one guy and there was no handle, that's where Post-it notes come in handy. You just stick a Post-it note to the back of it, use the Post-it note as your handle, and you're ready to go. Now, this is designer series paper, so it's a little bit thin, and I want to pop him up on dimensionals. So I'm going to punch out an additional one out of the cardstock. Then I can take some glue, and I want to make sure I'm towards the edges. Okay, so we're going the right direction, and I want all the way to the edge. So I'm not getting carried away with the glue, but I'm making sure we reach the edge. Then I can lay this on top, and because it's liquid, it's going to allow me to wiggle it around and line it up exactly. Because it was a punch, it would be the same with a die, but it's going to give me exactly the same size, and now he's a little more sturdy. So I can use that on the front of my card and on a dimensional, and it's not going to be bothered by the fact that it was too thin. So this is the Whale Done stamp set. Together with the punch, it's a bundle. It does have the coordinating designer series paper, Whale of a Time. And that's, like I said, it's going to be going away with the new catalog. So if you like it, grab it. Okay, let's go ahead and do our outsides. Those of you that work with me know that I'll help you with absolutely anything that you need. So I've got the mini dimensionals because I don't think a full one will fit behind his tail. But for his body, we can go ahead and use the full-size ones. Okay, so now all we have to do is the inside. And I remembered that we're going to stamp before assembling in case there's any boo-boos. So we can use the other side. And as you can see, I'm going to tie it in the middle so there'll be a bow. But there's a little bit of room here and a little bit of room here. So I think what I'm going to do with that is use some of our smaller pieces. Seahorse up there. Maybe some coral down at the bottom. Even put that by some of these guys. And then the sentiment I'm going to put in the middle because I want this to be underneath here. I want it to be covered up so that part's not seen. Let's pull in some blocks. We'll use my grid paper to make sure I'm straight. Do a seahorse and put him up in the corner. And then down here at the bottom, let's start with a light color for the seaweed so that we can still see our coral. So I've got Pear Pizzazz. And Calypso Coral. It's coral after all, right? I'm not putting them away yet because we have one more card to do. Let's just hope I don't stick an elbow in them. So I'm trying to go that way. Yay! No boo-boos, so it can go. And I think the placement's good. Yep, see, it covers it up, but yet I still get my decorative out here. Okay, there's one. Now this one is actually a little smaller as far as what we have to work with in the corners. I think I'm going to come in with my seaweed just lower. I don't think I want that color. Sorry about that. Hazards of having too many stamp pads open, huh? See, I do this to myself. I worm myself into a 3-inch section to work in. Does anybody else do that, or is it just me? It's like I have feet of desk on me on either side, and I crunch myself into a little bitty corner. Now the last thing we need to do is pick out some ribbon to tie it closed. Let's use the crinkled seam binding. As you can see, I wrapped it around and it's attached with a glue dot over here. And I have my special ribbon-only scissors. And I think I determined I needed 9 inches maybe. I kind of left it long because I don't know, I wanted a lot to work with. I'm not really good at tying bows without my bow maker tool. So I wanted a lot of room to mess around. Now when I am doing bows without the bow maker tool, one of the things I've done is I use my reverse tweezers to hold that knot together, because then I can use both hands to mess with the bow itself. It wants to go sideways. I'm going to go ahead and let it. So I'm still going to trim off a little bit of excess, but it's easier for me to work with plenty of ribbon and trim off the excess than it is to try to do that short. So there we go. There is our tag topper closure card. So I hope that you guys found that useful and that the video tutorial allowed us to get it straight in your head how I came about doing the score lines and making up my layers. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you later. Bye.